chill has fallen over Gotham. Freeze is back in town, and only one man can stop him. But he's going to need all the help he can get. It's going to get cold this summer. Very cold. SubZero.
Hey everybody, this is Jordan from Smallville, Bad Cat Shipper. This is podcast number 154. This podcast is part of the Batman Universe Podcast Network, and you can help support the Batman Universe by heading to patreon.com/the Batman Universe. Now, Tim.
Yes, Dane.
Baseball season has started.
Yes, it is finally back.
And I don't know if you know this, Tim, but this is big breaking news, right? The A's are tied for last place in the AL West. I don't know if you knew that.
Well, see, I'm sorry, Dane, but I haven't been keeping full tabs on the Oakland A's probably as much as I should, given how much you love them. But I thought they were doing okay at the start of the season, so I guess the last few games hasn't been that great.
The last 5 games.
Yeah, well, that's about more than half of the season so far.
Yeah, it's like
what is the record?
3-6.
Okay.
So their winning percentage is .333. It's tied with the Rangers, and I think the only reason why the Rangers are in last right now is because A comes before R.
That's the only thing.
Yeah.
Not has to do with percentages or anything like that. It's just alphabetically.
Yeah, I mean it's a combination, Tim, of just blowouts, I'd say, close losses and heartbreakers. Like last night.
I know that one was a bad one.
they went up 6-0, and then for some reason in like the third inning they gave like 5 runs. And then they ended up losing like 12-10 or 12-11 or something. Or 12. Wait, I have to look this up, Tim. It was kind of bad.
Oh, if it makes you feel better.
Sorry, 13-9.
No, so not as close as that. Yankees had a tough loss last night as well, if that makes you feel any better, Dane. They went to like 15 innings. They lost about 4 or 5 players due to injury or illness. Oh. And they lost like in 15 innings off a grand slam by the Orioles. Like the worst night ever. Yeah.
Does Stanton always wear that extra ear protector thing?
Ever since he got hit in the face 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
But Yankees, they won today, so as we're recording this podcast right now, they're 5-4. So not a great start, but not a horrible start. It's kind of like, okay, they're over 500, so I guess that's a good thing.
Well, it's a new team, and it's a new coach.
Mm-hmm.
But like, unfortunately for the A's, it's going to be a long season too.
Just like a precursor of what's to come for the rest of the season.
Yeah, because they scored 1 in the first, 5 in the second for some reason. I think there was a grand slam, and then the A's scored 4 in the fourth, and then 2. Yeah, so it wasn't a pretty loss.
Well, right now might be as good as it gets because they're only 3 under 500, and hopefully we'll get that much bigger than that.
Yeah, on the positive, they're only 3 under the 500 mark.
But hey, it's just great that baseball is back. At least you could say that for maybe the first month, but then after that, you probably get start frustrated if your team's not doing good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really expect them to, win the pennant, or win the ALDS or the CS.
I've heard from some analysts on like MLB Network saying, Oakland might not be as bad as you think, and they might surprise you a little bit. So,
not from what I've seen necessarily. How do I say this?
It's still early, though, Dean. Still early.
It's inconsistent, is what I'd say. So yeah, you score 5 runs in the second, but then you give up 9, right? in the next 3 innings, right? So yeah, I think it's inconsistent, and I think their pitching really needs to work, I guess, work how it's supposed to. Because if you look at their starters, right, there isn't really an ace on that team anymore. So
now that somebody took Sonny Gray from you,
yeah, somebody,
and he's actually the Yankees' number 4 starter.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. So he went from being the ace in a pitching rotation to being the 4th starter.
Yep.
Yeah.
At least at the beginning of this year.
Oh no. So you guys didn't even need him. I don't even know why.
Yes, they did. I will say they did need him. It wasn't like they added him to a 5-man rotation and they had a 6-man rotation. They needed a 5th starter.
For what?
Or not a 5th starter, but another one to fill out, the 5 spots.
They had nobody in the minors.
They do, but they wanted someone more established.
I guess. I don't know. I don't think you guys needed him.
Well, maybe you can sign him back when he's a free agent again.
No, I don't think so. Not the way the A's are run. We're probably going to get your single A guy that's been there for 10 years.
That's how it works.
Yeah. And not only that, also the stadium situation in Oakland.
I couldn't believe when you texted me that, how their option now is just to buy the Coliseum. Are their situation that bad?
I think they're still in the deal making part of, talking with the city of Oakland, but the Coliseum is in debt, major debt, something like $35 million in debt. And if you don't know, what happened was their prime location, the location that they want. There's a college in that town, or the college owns the land there, and the college refused to even meet with the athletics outright.
So disappointing.
Just as a beginning conversation, nothing's finalized, nothing's you have to stick to your word. Just, a back and forth on what the A's can build there that will suit their town, right? So they didn't get that. There's also another location called Howard Terminal. I haven't really seen what it looks like, but it seems to be near the Coliseum, which means it's near the dock, in the bay, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's not really a prime location because, who's really going to go there besides if you're going to an athletics game, especially if you build, new, like a shopping center or condominiums or something like that. Nobody wants to live by the docks. Nobody wants to shop by the docks or eat by the docks, right? So not really a prime location. And I guess in this day and age, you need to build, condos, or you need to build a shopping center to make it profitable, right? And so it looks like their only location is the Coliseum. Yeah, that's their only option, is the Coliseum. I don't know why. I guess people in Oakland don't really want a brand new sports stadium. Like the Coliseum at this point is almost 50 years old. It has bad plumbing.
Which is well documented.
It's breaking down. So the A's proposed to the city of Oakland to buy the Coliseum out of debt, and then they would own the Coliseum. I think that's how it's going to be. So they would own the Coliseum.
Man, well, if that goes through, they just should just tear it down and just start it up again.
Yeah.
Like play somewhere else for a couple of years. Like maybe they can share it with San Francisco or something.
Here's the thing, Tim. I don't think they own the land. I think they own the Coliseum. It's SOF.
Okay.
So that if they did break it down and rebuild it, I think that's just another sitting county thing that they would have to go through.
Like at least renovate it though, and just fix it up, or at the very least the plumbing.
Yeah. And to the A's credit, I mean, I think it was the A's. They have been building new things in the Coliseum. Like I don't know if you noticed, but they took off the tarps off the top and they made it, cheap seats. I know that's not really a big thing, but also there's it looks like a new restaurant or like a bar situation sort of thing. But yeah, so like, doesn't look like they're going to be moving, Tim.
Like I texted you, that would, if they do end up buying and owning the stadium, you said like 175 million, something like that?
No, 35 million, I think.
Okay. I was going to say, that'd be like their big free agent signing that they never make, but it'd be for their home stadium. Yeah. And it might be worth it if they get it up to looking nice and renovated and all that stuff.
Yeah, but
the question I have though, if they would own it, would they like kick the Oakland Raiders out and not have them play there anymore?
Well, the Raiders are out anyway.
Oh, they are? Okay.
Yeah, they're moving to Las Vegas. So it would only be a baseball stadium. So
okay, is that happening this upcoming football season?
I'm not sure. I think I'm not sure when the Raiders are moving, but I know they are moving because
that's good. You don't have to worry about seeing the chalk of the football field in September when Oakland's play, or the A's are playing there,
or vice versa. Like they're playing a football game and you see the second base area.
A little bit of a diamond.
Yeah. But you know why the Raiders are moving, Tim?
Because they don't want to be in the Coliseum anymore.
They couldn't get a new stadium, I think. And I think Las Vegas, of course, they got a lot of, I guess, empty land, right? And they're willing to work with professional sports teams. And they're getting a brand new stadium.
Yeah, I guess, that's seems like if they really want one, they just have to leave Oakland.
Yeah. Yeah, but where do they go? That's the thing.
Maybe they can go to Vegas too.
Las Vegas Athletics.
Actually, it doesn't sound too bad when you say it like that. The Las Vegas Athletics.
Yeah. So yeah, no new stadium. New season, no new stadium. I think. They have to be the only team in Major League Baseball that needs a new stadium.
Now, them in Tampa Bay, they're like the two that need it the worst.
Yeah, that went bad real fast.
Yeah, I will say the Coliseum, at least plumbing aside, looks better than Tropicana Field.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Especially if it's a sunny day, and there's more than 16,000 people there.
So it's almost like right now you're tied for last place and tied for worst stadium in MLB.
I don't know how the Yankees. Maybe it's because the Yankees are a history. They're a big franchise. The Braves are a big franchise. Who else?
I think you can name almost every baseball team that's gotten a new stadium over the last 18 years.
Yeah. Or at the very least, what I'm hoping is they can do at the Coliseum what the Red Sox did with Fenway.
Yeah, even it comes with big league. And then the Dodger Stadium.
Yeah, and make it attractive, Because, you just look at it and it's like, oh man, that's not
ugly.
the prettiest. that's ugly. But, I guess this is the only option, and I'm just hoping that they can do what the Red Sox did with Fenway. They couldn't rebuild Fenway. It's a classic park. The Coliseum isn't a classic park. But
no, it's not.
But I'm just hoping they can renovate the inside of it to make it look nice. Because, it's like I've said on this podcast before. The Golden State Warriors arena is right next to the Coliseum, and the Golden State Warriors are a good basketball team, so they always make the finals, or at least the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
And there's some aerial shots of the outside of the arena, and you could see the Coliseum.
The camera quickly pans away from it.
It does. It does. It sees that gray building, right? Then it quickly turns left and shows the top of the arena. But man,
maybe the Oakland could play there where the Golden State Warriors play.
at least it'll look nicer from the outside.
Yeah. They could make it work somehow.
Yeah. But anyway, Tim, that's enough of the Oakland A's stadium woes that continue.
Yeah, I think we found our rating scale for this episode.
I think so. Let's do our Dark Knight Rises minute-by-minute commentary.
Yes, let's do it. Let's cheer you up.
All right. So for this episode, we're going from minute 102 to 103, or an hour and 42 minutes to an hour and 43 minutes. So just get yourself queued up. Grab your HD DVD, grab your projector, grab your DVD. Blu-ray, Tim? Yeah? We're going with that? Okay.
Yeah, when we made that official, once the Dark Knight Trilogy came out on 4K.
Yeah. So grab your Blu-ray, grab your VHS tape, grab your laser disc, grab your beta tape, grab your Blockbuster physical, your Blockbuster subscription, grab your Netflix physical media subscription, grab your GameFly rental, right?
One more. Come on. It's the latest one.
How could I forget, Tim?
Yeah.
Grab your VHS to DVD transfer copy.
There you go.
And just cue it to the 102nd minute, and I'm going to give it a countdown. So, Tim, are you ready?
Let's do it.
All right, 3, 2, 1, hit play.
So, what do you think's nicer, Dane? The pit that Bruce is in, or the Oakland Coliseum?
Probably this pit. If I'm being honest, at least it's covered.
They probably don't have plumbing to worry about.
Yeah, not that does the Coliseum.
Yeah, first flashback to the young Ra's al Ghul. I remember the rumors about a young Ra's al Ghul being cast.
Oh, is that? Wait, am I forgetting? Yeah.
I don't remember the actor's name, but I remember reports about, they're casting someone to play a young Ra's al Ghul.
No, because I think I'm confusing the two, because I know there was a young Talia, right?
Yeah.
There's the young Talia, and then...
Yeah, they're not fully revealing it's Ra's al Ghul here. That's right. They're just saying the young mercenary.
There's got to be a better way to get out of that pit.
Well, it's not going to happen in this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're about to pause at the middle of the story.
Oh, no. So yeah, that's our Dark Knight Rises minute-by-minute commentary for this episode. We do one every single episode, so we're making progress, Tim.
Yes, we are. We're not stopping now. We're so close, even though we're so far.
Yeah.
That phrase has never been more true than this minute-by-minute commentary. So close, yet so far.
Yeah, we're like an hour off.
Just about, yeah. Maybe a little less than an hour. I don't know.
Yeah. Why don't you tell everybody about our featured topic for this episode, Tim?
Yeah, so our featured topic is going to be a review and look back at Batman and Mr. Freeze SubZero, as the movie just came out on Blu-ray a couple of weeks ago, and it's its 20th anniversary, which is hard to believe as it came out in 1998. So we haven't really talked too much about the movie as we've been doing this podcast for 154 episodes. I'm sure it's come up here and there, but we never really had a full-length discussion on it. So with it being out on Blu-ray, and I just watched it again a few days ago, felt it's the perfect time to finally talk about the second Batman the Animated Series movie. So yeah, just to go back when I first saw it, or actually when I first heard about it, because it's kind of strange. I remember seeing the trailer for it, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was played before the VHS release of Batman and Robin. And now I don't want to make you think I own the VHS copy of Batman and Robin. My cousin actually had the VHS copy of Batman and Robin, and for some reason we were watching it. I don't know why, but the highlight was seeing the trailer for SubZero for the first time. But for some reason, I remember the trailer highlighting, of course, Mr. Freeze, and I thought, okay, cool, we're getting a new Mr. Freeze story, and Robin's going to play a big part in it. And I don't know why, because the movie does not hint at this at all. But when I saw that first trailer, and I'm sure I'm just remembering it wrong, but I always thought a big part of the story of the movie was going to be the fallout between Dick and Bruce, because by the time I saw this trailer, the new Batman Adventures was already airing. So we knew he was already Nightwing. And I thought, oh, cool, this movie's going to fill the gap of how, Dick Grayson left Bruce and became Nightwing and all that. So that's going to be cool to get. But yeah, like I said, none of that is in the movie at all. So I don't know where I got that from. Maybe I should look back at that trailer, the very first teaser trailer. Maybe they changed it and I'm the only one who remembers that. But that is definitely not in the movie. So I think it is more that I'm just remembering it incorrectly. But I just remember getting really excited about it because of that more than anything, more so than it, being a new Mr. Freeze story. So it came out on VHS in 1998. I think it was during the summer. I can't remember the exact month, but I remember it took forever for me just to get it because I wasn't driving then. I was barely just 15. So me and my brother rode our bikes down to Toys R Us. Then I just remember it was taking forever for me just to get the copy because I don't know if you remember.
Oh, by the way, Tim, so sad to see Toys R Us finally closing down.
Yeah, I was just
really
that
sad.
Too.
Yeah.
And I never thought it would come to that. I mean, good memories of going to Toys R Us as a kid, buying stuff, and then working there as my first job, making some good friends there. So, yeah, Toys R Us has a special place in my heart, and I'm sad to see it go.
Yeah.
But the one time I did go there for SubZero, it wasn't a great experience because
really,
like I said, it took forever because it was during the time. Remember how Toys R Us used to have those tickets that you'd have to buy for video games and movies? It's because they don't want the physical copies out on display in the store for anyone to steal.
Right. Yeah.
So it took me forever just to find the display of where they're selling it. And I remember I saw, I see like the cover or like the poster they have for SubZero, but there's no ticket here to get it. Like, how do I buy this thing? I just remember it took forever for me to find someone to, ask and to make sure they had the copy. So I pretty much spent an hour in the store just trying to find SubZero. I finally got it and just rode back home with it. So a year later, I started working there and made sure that problem never happened again. But no, yeah, so got it that day, watched it later that night. And I remember when I first saw it, I liked it, but being a little disappointed with it. And mainly because going back to what I thought it was going to be with Dick leaving Bruce and becoming Nightwing and all that, how none of that was part of the movie. I just remember being puzzled, like, why wasn't that there? I could have sworn that was, part of the build up to the story and what they're trying to promote in it. But it made me think that they cut a lot of stuff. So, but I did enjoy it though. But it is one of those movies, I got to say, that I don't watch quite often, like other ones like Phantasm or Batman Beyond Return of the Joker. Every time I watch it, I enjoy it. I just don't have it as high as those ones. And it's one of those things where sometimes where you kind of were disappointed at first, and the more you see it, the more you come to enjoy it or whatnot. And that happened a little bit with this movie. I won't say it's a disappointment anymore, but I can't say it changed too much where I go, oh, okay, this is like really great, or it's really, one of my favorites. And don't get me wrong, it's really good. There's nothing really wrong with it. It's just something that's just not quite up there with some of the other Batman movies we got. And it's still kind of the same for me today. Just watching it again. It's a real short movie too. That's another thing, watching it recently, because I watched it a few days ago, but the last time I probably watched it was 10 years ago, and only maybe a couple of times over the course of its 20-year release. So maybe I've only seen it probably like 4 or 5 times, if even that. But watching it again this last time, I enjoy it, but it still didn't quite get elevated any further. I mean, the story of it is really great. I mean, about Mr. Freeze. It's cool that it took off right where his second animated series episode left off, which was Deep Freeze, and we knew That's where he discovered Nora was still alive, that the amusement park owner got her body away from the explosion and kept it for himself. And he wanted to, have Mr. Freeze build him the suit and have caused the accident to him so he can live forever. But, things, I guess I'm going to recap that whole episode here, but things went down and Mr. Freeze and Nora got sunk into, the ocean. And then that's where SubZero picked up. And so it was cool that we got to pick up immediately from that. And then just the overall plot of, finally trying to revive Nora. Mr. Freeze got his answer as far as, what needs to be done to save her. She needs an organ transplant. And of course, her blood type is extremely rare. And there's only a handful of people who match her blood type. And of course, one of those is Barbara Gordon. And that's who Mr. Freeze and one of his old colleagues, as he kidnaps to try to help him save his wife, they kidnap Barbara and, take her to this oil rig, try to force her to have the surgery, but she's not, she wants to help, but she doesn't want to do it that way. She wants to do it right in a hospital. And of course, Batman and Robin discover the kidnapping. They go and save her. And that's the best part of the movie, I will say, the final sequence on the oil rig. Good action. And, we get closure to the Mr. Freeze story at this point anyway. Batman and Robin, doing all they can to help Freeze. They get Nora out of there, and Batman goes back to try to bring Freeze, who's injured because the fire going on, his suit's a little damaged. But Freeze ends up falling into the ocean as Batman was trying to save him. All that stuff was good. It was very intense. I mean, that's part, I think, really holds up still. And as far as being just a really entertaining, suspenseful action sequence of all the Batman animated movies. So I'll definitely give it props for that. So I like too how it gave at that point, like I said, a closure to Mr. Freeze's story. Kind of got a happy ending, but not really. Because at the end we see him walking back to the station, like out in the snow, hearing a news report that Nora was revived. The operation was successful with Barbara, and you see him bring a tear to his face, and he just, walks out with a broken leg, like seeing him smile for quite possibly the first time ever in the series, definitely. And as far as his life in the story goes, definitely the first time smiling in a long, long time. So it was a good ending to that story. But as we know, Mr. Freeze's story continued in the new Batman Adventures and Batman Beyond, and he sadly does not get a happy ending, even though Nora did when it was all said and done. So, yeah, the movie, again, it doesn't have a lot of action in it. Batman and Robin are hardly in it. And that's, I guess, one of the things where I don't have it quite as high as some of the other movies, because a lot of the stuff just deals with, Dick and Barbara at that jazz festival. Like a lot of the action early on takes place with them out of costume. And it's a little, even though it's a short movie, it's a little slow in that beginning period when it's not dealing with Freeze. So I guess that's kind of the reason why I don't have it quite high up there. And again, it's not like it's bad. It's just something that just doesn't necessarily grab me like some of the other Batman movies and episodes did. So that's what I remember of the movie. And just watching it again, like I said, it didn't really change too much. But again, it's still an enjoyable watch and definitely a must watch for those who want to get the complete Mr. Freeze story of the animated series, because it's definitely has some big stuff to what happens to the characters. So, on Blu-ray, it looked fantastic, though. I got to say, it was a really good transfer. The colors are so bright and they pop out at you. It just looks really, really good. Probably even a better transfer than the Phantasm one, because that had a few shots that didn't look quite right. But this one was pretty much flawless throughout all the way through. I guess the only nitpick I have about it, it was the aspect ratio was 4:3. It wasn't in the widescreen letterbox format, so it was kind of in the squared box. But I could live with that. I've seen a lot of stuff, especially some of the older TV shows, especially in the DC universe. But like Batman the animated series, when you watch those on like Amazon Prime and all that, it's in the 4:3 ratio. So I'm used to it. I probably should expect that to be the case for the Blu-ray releases of the animated series. So might as well prepare myself for that, even though it would be nice if they do like a widescreen remastered transfer. But regardless, the SubZero Blu-ray was an excellent transfer. So definitely glad they decided to put it out, and for this much closer to getting every DCAU series and movie out on Blu-ray. Like, I think they got all the animated movies covered. Now it's just time for the series like Batman the Animated Series, Superman, and Batman Beyond, and then we'll be good to go. But Yeah, that's my thoughts on SubZero. I know you didn't get the Blu-ray yet, Dane, but what is your memories of the movies and what you thought of it?
I can't remember when I saw it first, but because I would have been. It came out in 97?
98.
98. I would have been 10 years old, so probably after that. I remember buying the VHS, and I lost it.
Oh, no.
Yeah, because for some reason, this is so stupid looking back on it, but I would bring, like, I must have liked this movie a lot because I would bring, for some reason, the VHS copy with me, like, no matter where I went. So to school,
like a place that doesn't have a VCR.
yeah, just going to the store with my dad. There's no VCR there. I would just bring it with me, kind of like a comfort blanket, I guess. Right?
That's pretty cool, though.
Yeah, and I lost it. So yeah, like I lost it. I was sad. I couldn't watch it, and ended up finding it. I left it outside in the front of my parents' house.
Uh-huh.
Luckily, it was covered.
I was
So
going to
it
say,
didn't get
hopefully it
rained
didn't
on.
melt, did it?
Didn't get rained on. Didn't melt. So yeah, I found it and I watched it. I actually remember liking SubZero more than I did Mask of the Phantasm.
Interesting.
Because I think, like you said previously, it was because SubZero was shorter than Mask of the Phantasm. I think Mask of the Phantasm is like a little under an hour and a half. Right?
Yeah, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, and I think SubZero is like an hour.
Yeah, I think the official runtime is like 67 minutes, so probably if you take away the credits, it might just be a little over an hour.
Yeah. So like, I remember liking SubZero way more. Plus, too, it had the two polar bears, which I thought was really cool. What's their names?
Yeah, I don't remember their names.
I can't remember their names, but I remember they had there was two polar bears that lived with Mr. Freeze, and I just remember liking this one more for some reason.
Those polar bears did make up the bulk of the action sequences, I will say. Dick had to face him twice.
But yeah, like you said, I didn't really notice that Batman and Robin aren't really in this one. I just love this movie. I love Mr. Freeze. I thought this was gonna be like Heart of Ice, but more, like more fleshed out. I thought this was gonna be the Heart of Ice story, but more fleshed out. But yeah, like that. I guess that's my first memories of SubZero. Still haven't seen it in a while. I don't know why.
When was the last time you think you probably saw it?
Must have been around. You know what? It was around the time of I guess like a month or two before Dark Knight came out.
Okay.
So back in like 2000.
About 10 years. Kind of like me.
What is that, like 2007, 2008?
Yeah.
Yeah, so around there.
So you at least got the DVD version of it. You're still watching the VHS copy.
VHS copy. No, Tim. I transferred my VHS copy to DVD.
That's right. That should have been my first guess. What did you think? Like, another big change for the movie, I mean, right off the bat, is the 3D background animation they sometimes use, which was a first for anything in Batman the Animated Series. What did you think of that?
I think they used some of that in Mask of the Phantasm, the beginning. Didn't they?
Was it? I don't know if it was quite 3D, not like they did with this. I could be mistaken, but if it is, they did a good job of blending it with the 2D animation.
Yeah, I was about to say, I could have swore like the beginning shot, like you're going over the city and then you focus on the building. I could have swore that was CGI, but I don't know. Doesn't really stick out to me. Of course, I haven't seen it in a long time. But I imagine on Blu-ray it looks like a sore thumb.
It did stick out a little. It wasn't
Yeah.
anything that takes you out of the movie, but you definitely notice it. And it's not like horrible, like type CG animation like the Spider-Man the animated series was, where it's definitely out of date nowadays. But it doesn't look quite the best, like especially the background. And sometimes they have these wide shots, like for instance when they're Bruce and Dick are about to take off in the Batwing, and they're making their launch preparation. And you see Alfred walking up to it. Like Alfred's a CG like animated character too. It's like it's from a distance, but you can tell he's CG. It looks a little off, but he's mixing it with like the CG background and the CG Batwing. But I think the Batwing looks the best out of everything that was CG. And sometimes even like the motorcycle chase that Dick had, some of the background there was CG. It's again kind of like the movie. It's one of those things where it doesn't look bad, but at the same time, it's you notice it a little bit.
And correct me if I'm wrong. This was not in theaters, right?
No, just straight to video.
And it came out after Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I was just wondering, like the timeline of like if this movie was to promote Batman and Robin.
I'm sure it was kind of. I'm sure they wanted to, or they were probably hoping, at least the executives at Warner Brothers, with the success of Batman and Robin and Mr. Freeze being the main villain, we got to, tie that in with a new animated movie that features Mr. Freeze. I'm sure that was the reasoning behind it, not just because Heart of Ice is one of the greatest stories of Batman ever told, and they wanted to continue it. I'm sure it was more Warner Brothers marketing wanted to tie into Batman and Robin and Mr. Freeze being in that, but regardless of how it gets made and out there, even if it is a tie into one of the worst Batman stories ever, as long as we get it. So the new Batman Adventures and SubZero, got to be thankful for Batman and Robin for giving us those two things. So that's the only redeeming quality of that movie. But another cool thing, when I watched it for not for the first time, but watched it again this past Thursday, I forgot how it started. I loved how it begins with, it's just pretty much like the opening for Batman 89 with the music. It's pretty much playing the exact same thing. You like panning through, it looks like the Batcave, but it's actually, actually it is the Batcave. I was getting it mixed up. It could have been like the ice cave that Mr. Freeze was living in at the beginning. But I just love how it pans through that cave. And then you see this playing Danny Elfman's classic theme, and the bat symbol comes up. And, it comes into the grand score that you're familiar with. But instead of going to the full Batman theme that we hear in the intro of 89, I guess they didn't have time for that. So they just abbreviated it. You see the Batman logo get frozen with ice, and it says SubZero. But it plays the ending of the theme right before when you see the logo in Batman 89, then the camera zooms in and you get into the movie. I love how it's pretty similar to that. The music's the same, and the way the logo kind of breaks apart in ice, it was pretty cool. So I always liked how it started using the Danny Elfman theme music to kick off this movie as well.
I think those polar bears should get their own animated movie.
I know we never found out what happened to them. Mr. Freeze came back in the new Batman Adventures, but the polar bears weren't with him. We know they were still there at the end of SubZero because he clung on to them after he fell in the water to get back to land. They pretty much saved his life. They walked out with him with his broken leg after he heard the news about Nora. So who knows what happened to him?
He probably just set him free to be free polar bears.
Yeah, hopefully that's the case. He didn't, do anything tragic to them. But another thing that stood out about SubZero 2 was the voice actress for Barbara. Her name was Mary Kay Bergman, and this was her only pretty much appearance as Batgirl in the animated universe. She just did this movie, and then for the new Batman Adventures, Tara Strong took over as voicing Barbara. And this voice of Barbara, I gotta say, wasn't my favorite. It was different from the first actress who did it in the animated series, and then of course Tara Strong did Batgirl, definitely voiced her more than anyone do the animated series run. So this one was, just kind of like a stopgap, but wasn't necessarily a voice I thought fit Barbara. I don't know if you noticed that when you watched it, as far as Barbara's voice standing out as being a little too different.
No, I think I was too young to really notice those differences,
Yeah, I could understand that. I guess for me being older at that time, like, man, this is definitely a different Barbara. It doesn't quite sound as right as what I think she would sound like. But again, it's something that doesn't kill the movie, just something that stood out to me. So just little things like that over the course of watching it. And like I said, some of the animation and the slow bits of it kind of in the first act and second half is what, doesn't quite reach the level of some of my other favorites. But it's definitely, like I said, definitely something you should still watch. And I got to say, the best part probably about this DVD, other than the excellent transfer, is that, or not DVD, the Blu-ray, is that that on the disc, it has every single Mr. Freeze episode from Batman the Animated Series and Batman Beyond, which was awesome. Because at first, I was just going to watch the movie again. But then I saw, oh, cool, it has every single Mr. Freeze episode on here. You know what? I'm going to get the complete Mr. Freeze story. I'm going to watch all of them, starting with Heart of Ice all the way up to Meltdown from Batman Beyond. And I got to say, anyone, who's a fan of the animated series, and especially of Heart of Ice, which I'm sure is every Batman the Animated Series fan, definitely at least once got to watch every Mr. Freeze episode all in a row with the movies put in the middle. Because that's how I watched SubZero on Thursday. I started with Heart of Ice, Deep Freeze, then I went to SubZero. Then after that, immediately watched Cold Comfort, and then ended it with Meltdown. And it's so convenient having all of them on just one disc. So definitely, I think that's kind of, I wouldn't say the full worth of admission to buying the Blu-ray, because the quality of it, alone, I think is worth it. But having all those episodes is just another added bonus. Why I think you should probably, any Batman the Animated Series fan who should get this, because it was such a cool experience watching the complete Mr. Freeze story this way. It just, drives home the point again of just how amazing and what a wonderful job Paul Dini and Bruce Timm did with reinventing this character, creating the definitive origin story for him. And just, what a sad, tragic story it is for Mr. Freeze. I mean, he doesn't get a happy ending. As I said, it looked like it was kind of a more hopeful, happy ending for him at the end of SubZero. But then when you watch Cold Comfort of how his accident just deteriorated his body and all that's left was his head, and then he never saw his wife because of that, and his wife got tired of waiting for him and she married the doctor who performed her operation, and that just sent Freeze off the deep end, which caused him to take away everything that those people loved in that episode. And then in Batman Beyond, it just gets even worse. That's one of my favorite Batman Beyond episodes too, Meltdown, where Derek Powers is trying to find a way to keep his radiation in check. And then a scientist comes up to him and she tells him, there's a way that could possibly be done by giving you a new body, but, transferring your memories and like your total brain function into a new body. But I'm going to test it first. And she tests it on the head of Mr. Freeze that's been just sitting there in like cold storage for about 50 years. And he has some great dialogue in that opening sequence where he first shows up in Batman Beyond, just saying, how he's obsessed with death and how every day he thinks about it. But yet he's being offered a new chance of life, and it looks like it worked. I mean, we finally get to see Victor Freeze as a happy human being, living a normal life in a normal body, being able to, feel the warmth of someone's touch, and just, the weather, being out in broad daylight, not worrying about being in sub-zero temperatures. So it looks like he was going to get the happy ending there, but Derek Powers and that scientist, Stephanie Blake, betrayed him. I mean, he was reverting back into his previous condition where he had to be in sub-zero temperatures, and Powers just goes, if only we can biopsy his organs. And then Stephanie Blake's, that's doable. And they're just going to kill him right then and there. And so he gets his revenge on them, but ends up, killing himself in the process. So Mr. Freeze does not get a happy ending in this story, but man, is it great storytelling. I mean, definitely one of the most tragic Batman stories, other than, some of the stuff Batman goes through, definitely for his villains. It's really, really great stuff. So I highly recommend everyone do that at least once. Just watch the complete Mr. Freeze story all in a row with those episodes and with SubZero. You definitely won't be disappointed.
Well, at least they got over the Nora storyline. I mean, his voice. I mean, not his voice. His storyline doesn't end very well, but at least they got the Nora part out of the way.
Yeah, she got a happy ending.
Yeah, she did.
Oh, I'm sure she was upset at what happened with Freeze afterwards, but I mean, at least she survived and was able to live, her life healthy.
Yeah.
So yeah, altogether, if I had to score the Blu-ray, I'm gonna give it a solid 4. A great transfer. It looked awesome. And then getting those Mr. Freeze episodes all together was just an added bonus, which was, like I said, just a great experience watching them all together. So I highly recommend anyone pick this up.
Is there a commentary on it?
No, I wish there was. The special features are definitely lacking.
Yeah.
I will say that. Other than the episodes and a trailer and like some artwork, that's pretty much about it.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, but it's worth enough just for the movie.
All right, so I guess that's it for our feature topic, right?
Yep.
All right, so now we can move on to our only piece of news, which is that the voice cast, and you got to first look at the death of Superman animated movie. Wow, that was hard to say. So Jerry O'Connell from Billions.
Yeah, and he's voiced Superman. He's pretty much the voice of Superman in the DC animated movie continuity because he portrayed him in Justice League Throne of Atlantis and Justice League versus Teen Titans. So
yeah, he's going to be voicing Superman, and Rebecca Romijn, his wife, is going to be voicing Lois Lane. And then The Office's Rainn Wilson will be playing Lex Luthor. So
that's the one I'm real excited about to see or to hear how he does.
I was about to say, I guess he's going. I guess they're going in a different direction with this Lex Luthor.
Yeah, I wonder like how much Dwight is going to be in his Luthor performance. I could kind of see it working though, a little Dwight in there. So.
And then just to round it off, Rosario Dawson will be playing Wonder Woman. And then Nathan Fillion is going to be Green Lantern. And then Christopher Gorham. Who's that? I haven't heard of him before.
I actually got... like I said, most of this cast has voiced their characters before. So I actually got to interview him from one of the premieres I did for Justice League War. So I haven't seen anything he was in other than this, but he was a pretty nice guy when I got to interview him. He was definitely excited to play the Flash.
Yeah, he's going to be playing the Flash, and then Matt Lanter is going to be Aquaman, Tim.
A.K.A. Anakin Skywalker.
I know, like, I'm just reading the article, and then they have this show Timeless as his credit, and I think they should have said Clone Wars Anakin.
Thinking the exact same thing, yeah.
Shemar Moore of SWAT. Is that a TV show, too? I
think it's a TV show, and it was a movie, so back in 2003, I think. So it's one of those.
Yeah. He's going to be playing Cyborg, and Jason O'Mara from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. will be playing Batman.
Yep. This is he's done Batman a while now. Might be approaching like close to 10 movies. So.
Really?
Yeah, he's been doing a lot ever since they started with Justice League War and this new continuity. So, yeah, voice cast. Glad the familiar voices are there. And like I said, excited to hear Rainn Wilson's voice of Lex Luthor. But the big thing about this movie that threw me off, I got to say, was how it is in this animated movie continuity. Because I was just assuming that when they announced the death of Superman, that it was going to be, a comic book adaptation, kind of like Dark Knight Returns was. And I got to say, I'm a little torn on this, to be honest. I was looking forward to seeing a more direct adaptation of that comic with the visual style that the actual comic series had. So the fact that it is going to be the main continuity and not have that look and feel of the comics was a little disappointing, I'm going to admit. But at the same time, too, it is kind of cool they are putting in the continuity because these group of characters have been established over the course of several movies, which is a good thing. And I think it's just going to add to the effect of when Superman does die and we see the members of the Justice League who have interacted with him and partnered with him and fought with him through several movies it would have a better effect when Superman dies and they feel that grief and loss for him. So I think it's going to work better in that aspect of the stories, given that we've spent some time with the versions of these characters. So it's kind of a mixed bag for me. I'm still excited for it, though. I just got to get over the fact that it's not going to be a straight up comic adaptation. So I was expecting maybe this Lex Luthor to have the red hair and beard like he did in the comic, but I don't think that's going to be the case here with Rainn Wilson's Luthor. But they did have, because the the Suicide Squad Hell to Pay movie came out digitally about a week ago. And so that first look at the Death of Superman featurette was, online. Got to see that. It looks really good, even though, the art style and the character designs aren't exactly like the comic. They are capturing the comic pretty well, at least from the little bit they showed here. And with Doomsday attacking the different members of the Justice League, I like how Doomsday has his green suit. That was great to see because we didn't get that in the first Superman Doomsday movie. And the one improvement that is for the better about it being in this animated movie continuity is that when Doomsday fights the Justice League, it's not going to be like the third tier heroes that it was in the comics. It's going to be, the big guns, Green Lantern, Flash, Batman, Wonder Woman. So that's going to be an improvement, I think, of having it in this continuity. You're getting the big guns to take on Doomsday before Superman gets in the fight. So it looks good. I'm excited about the voice cast with the returning voice actors and the new ones. And again, excited that it is 2-part. So they're not going to have to hurry up and rush things. We're going to get the full Doomsday fight, the death of Superman, the funeral for a friend. And that should all make for a great first part of the movie. And then after that, the reign of the Superman for part 2. So I'm excited for it, despite being a little disappointed of not being a full adaptation. But I'll get over it. I can't wait for this one to come out.
Funeral for a Friend was actually one of the first comics that I bought. In fact, I think it was the first comic I ever bought. Yeah.
And those had some great covers too.
Yeah, it's just the story wasn't very good. Or at least I don't remember liking it that much. I'm not.
I should go back and read those.
Maybe the Death of Superman, but not so much the Funeral for a Friend. I'm not that big of a fan of the straight up comic adaptations.
Really?
Yeah, I'd rather the animators or the filmmakers to do their own thing. I think The Killing Joke would be the only one that would work. But unfortunately,
you would think so. But
unfortunately, they added that beginning part to it.
I thought The Dark Knight Returns, they did a great job. And I know Year One gets some flack, but I like Year One because that was definitely just straight up adaptation.
Yeah,
for the most
definitely Year One did not work for me. I think that was written in such a way where it could only work in comics,
Mm-hmm. I can understand that.
Yeah, it doesn't really translate to animation. So, yeah. So yeah, I guess that's it for our news and discussion topics. So we can get into a conversation with Alex / listener feedback. Did Jordan send in an email?
Yes, he did, as always.
Okay, I was just wondering. So yeah, do you want to read that, Tim?
Yep. Jordan says, "Hey Tim and Dane and Alex, I was interested in hearing your guys go through the letter grades for all the DCEU films up to this point. I figured I'd chime in. I should mention that mine are quite different, as you might imagine. One thing I do agree with Tim on, though, is that I think Man of Steel is the best DCEU movie so far. I adore Man of Steel. It's so beautiful, inspirational, and moving. I have no issue with the final fight either. That was the first time we'd ever seen Superman fight like that in live action.
Yeah, but can I say something, Tim? Yeah, can I say something real quick?
No, you may not.
Or it's more of a question to you and Alex. Do you guys...
You mean Jordan.
Jordan. I'm sorry, Jordan. Do you guys not care that the entire story... there's zero story after that?
No, yeah, I actually don't mind it.
Okay.
To me, it makes sense enough because Zod's lost everything he was fighting for and wanted to achieve. So, of course, he's going to take out his anger and frustration on the man who took that all away from him in Superman in a fight. And Superman has to stop him during that fight. So, to me, there's just enough for it to warrant that battle.
I guess. That's all I'll say. Yeah. I'm not going to get into the whole thing.
Let's continue on with Jordan giving praises that I agree with. So.
Yeah, definitely.
The Michael Shannon is one of the most underrated live-action villains ever, and his performance throughout that fight scene was magnificent. Man of Steel is an A+ for me. Yeah, I definitely agree, too, that Michael Shannon is a little underrated in that performance. He did a great job as Zod. I don't consider Batman v Superman quite the masterpiece that I do Man of Steel, but I still think it's really good. I don't like Jesse Eisenberg's legs. I don't like Doomsday's look, and I think it was a poor decision to kill Superman in the movie. But I love pretty much everything else. I love how it's a film about Superman inspiring a Batman who has lost his way to become the hero he once was again. Batman v Superman is an A- for me.
Oh yeah, one more thing, Tim. This time it's about Batman versus Superman. How come they never really explained the branding that Batman does,
Yeah, that's a good point.
or why he does it?
I know, maybe he was wanting to be, the executioner as he was described, in the movie. Once he branded them, people would be killed in prison because of that.
Yeah.
It was definitely a dark place they took him in this movie, so it wouldn't be too far out of
yeah.
reach to think that would be the reason.
Yeah, that's a little too far. I do like the dark Batman, but
Yeah,
I don't know. That's just a little too far.
Yeah, I
Having
agree.
people shanked in prison,
Yeah, and not kind of shifting the blame off to that he doesn't get it, doesn't actually do the killing, but he knows what's going to happen to him.
Yeah, but you kind of do.
Yeah,
You know?
I know. It would have been best if that wasn't part of it. I definitely agree.
I think that was just a cool design element. Like, oh, what if,
Yeah.
what if
That's
there's
true.
people walking around with Batman brands on them?
Yeah, if they
Yeah.
made it out of prison, but I don't think that happened for any of them.
No.
Jordan continues with Suicide Squad is a film that has grown on me each time I watched it. It's my least favorite of the 5 DCEU movies to date, but it's still really enjoyable to me. It's just so much fun. I still wish it...
Totally forgot Scott Eastwood was in that movie.
Well, he's only in a handful of scenes, isn't he?
Yeah, but wasn't he the big, like, oh, he's going to be Steve Trevor, remember?
Or I think it was Dick Grayson undercover.
Dick Grayson, right?
Yeah.
And then he was in like 2 scenes, and you totally forget that he's in that movie.
Pretty much.
Was Armie Hammer in that movie? No, right?
No, he wasn't in it.
Yeah. He was rumored to be Batman, right?
He was Batman in the Justice League Mortal movie from 2007.
Oh, right.
That never got made.
Yeah.
I still want to see a shot of him in the Batsuit, what it's like. I know some artwork came out. I don't know if it was artwork or actually them in the costume, but it wasn't that great of quality, so it's still kind of hard to see. But I'm still curious what he would have looked like in the Batsuit.
Also, totally forgot Viola Davis was in that movie. Just right now.
Yeah.
It just reminded me.
She was great as Amanda Waller.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll see her again, but
yeah, for the great actress that she is, little one note, I mean, she's just that government employee.
That's how Waller is, though. She always that stoic, stern figure.
Yes, but in a movie, I expected her to be more.
No, I expect comic accuracy, Dane.
Yeah.
Jordan says, I still wish it had been closer in line tonally to the first Comic-Con teaser we got for it, though. However, the things I love about what we did get have gone even better with time, and the things I don't love don't bother me as much anymore.
Also forgot that... sorry, Tim. I don't mean to keep on interrupting. Also forgot that Katana was in that movie.
Yeah. And she had some cool action sequences, but, not really a character arc.
Yeah, it wasn't really explained. She just kind of shows up.
Yeah.
Fights some guys and leaves. So
her costume was cool, though. Again, another comic accurate.
Yeah. Also, oh man, I totally forget the guy's name. Not Boomerang. Not the fire guy.
Croc? Slipknot?
Not Croc. Slipknot, yeah. Totally forgot he was in that movie, too.
One of the Suicide Squad team members had to get their heads blown off, so we knew it was him from the get-go. There are some phenomenal performances in that film, with Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn and Jared Leto's Joker especially stealing the show for me. I give Suicide Squad a B. Wonder Woman is a really good origin film for Diana. I think it has some really powerful emotional stuff in it and some breathtaking and moving action sequences. I'm with Dane with regards to its weak villains, though. Sort of. I like Ares pretty well, actually, but there are times when General Lunderdorf and Dr. Poison act like Batman 66 villains, and it really irks me. although they each get a few good creepy moments as well that help out a bit. Wonder Woman is a B+ for me. Yeah, for some reason I don't take into consideration Leonard Dorff and Dr. Poison as, villains for Wonder Woman. I probably should, because, since Ares doesn't show up to the end, they are the main antagonists throughout the film. So like I said, they just serve their purpose well enough. But I can kind of see what you're going for, Jordan, about them being 66 villains. There are moments I kind of had of that. So I can kind of get what you're saying there, but it doesn't irk me like it did you.
Yeah, I expected more from Dr. Poison, because she was in the first trailer? Second trailer? Yeah. So I expected more from her, but yeah.
She had a cool look too, I gotta say.
Yeah, that fake mouth thing.
Yeah. And finally, we have Justice League. I have my issues with it. The score is so forgettable. Steppenwolf is a weak villain, and I'm not a fan of Superman's resurrection. But that can't take away from the smile I had on my face for nearly the entire duration of the movie when I saw it for the first time. Seeing all those characters together in live-action film for the first time was an extraordinary experience. The cast is amazing, and there are so many fun moments between them. I give Justice League a B+ as well.
I'm actually shocked that he didn't give it an A+. I mean, just the way he's been talking about Justice League, I'm surprised it's a B+. So
yeah, well, I guess there are a few complaints he had in there with Steppenwolf, the score, and Superman's resurrection. So if we did factor that in there, I guess a B+ sounds accurate.
Yeah, I mean, I give the score some credit because it does have that cool Wonder Woman theme. So
yeah, those are the only highlights of the old themes. Here, Wonder Woman, Batman '89, and Superman. That's it. Like Jordan says, it really is forgettable. I can't pinpoint anything that stood out for that from Danny Elfman's original score there.
It's kind of like the Suicide Squad theme, or the score.
Exactly.
Like, did it even have one?
I know. That's in the same boat. I can't remember any specific musical cue that wasn't soundtrack related, but for the actual score, nothing comes to mind. Yeah, I just remember the licensed songs that they use. Yeah, because there was so much of it. I'm sure there's more of that than an actual score to the film anyway. So
yeah, it's kind of reminds me of, Suicide Squad kind of reminds me of the Expendables movies, where
I've never seen any of those Expendables movies, but just from the trailers I've seen of those, I can kind of get where you're coming from on that.
Yeah, I have seen those Expendable movies, and I cannot remember a single thing from it.
Not even some so ridiculous or stupid.
Yeah, I just remember the soundtrack, and it's the same thing with Suicide Squad, except Suicide Squad had Margot Robbie in it, and a really good Harley Quinn.
Yeah, so at least it has that up against the Expendables for you.
Yeah. Man, I saw her in I, Tonya. The I, Tonya movie. And, man, she's a really good actress. Same thing with Sebastian Stan. He's kind of one note as the Winter Soldier. But
is he in that too?
Yeah, he plays her husband.
Okay.
Yeah, he's really good in it too.
Huh. I've heard the movie's really good.
Yeah,
like you said, her performance is great.
Wasn't she nominated for Best Actress?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, yeah, she's really good in it. Sebastian Stan is really good in it. Great script. Great, actually, better CGI than Justice League.
Wow.
Because
I'm curious.
Of course,
what do they need? What do they need CGI for in I, Tonya?
Of course, Margot Robbie. Maybe she can skate, but she can't do a triple axel. So like okay. they had like a professional ice skater do all of the dance numbers, right? Okay. And so they CGI'd Margot Robbie's face on that actress or the ice skater. Better job than Justice League. I'm serious.
No, I'm serious. I believe you.
It actually looks. You can tell that it's not Margot Robbie. It's just Margot Robbie's face on another person, but better job done, I'd say.
Yeah, sadly, I trust your word on that one. Yeah. You know what? I doubt this is in the movie. I just remember, watching the actual Tonya Harding during the Olympics. What was it, '93? I think The only thing I remember of that is her skating to the Jurassic Park theme. Did they have that in the movie?
No, they don't. They have her skating. Well, I just think they couldn't license that.
Yeah, I'm sure. That's the reason.
But they do have like most of her big ice skating dances. So yeah.
Just no Jurassic Park thing.
Yeah,
that would have
no
made the movie better.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely great movie. So if you like Sebastian Stan and you want to see him in something different, something way different, then definitely see that movie.
I'll probably see him in Infinity War before I get to Tanya, but I'll keep it in mind. But Jordan continues saying, I haven't seen any of Ava DuVernay's previous work, nor that of Cairo Salim's, probably butchering the name, but he's, I think, the writer penned to do New Gods. So I don't think we mentioned that in our last episode. So that might have, either I missed it in the official press release or it came out later, but Cairo Salim, as the writer, says, so I can't get too excited about either of them specifically being attached as the respective director and writer of a New Gods film, but I'm very excited about the New Gods movie itself. One disappointment I had about Justice League is that it didn't really explore the fourth world mythology at all. I mean, we saw Steppenwolf, parademons, boom tubes, and mother boxes, but there was nothing about Apocalypse or New Genesis. All we got was Steppenwolf's name-dropping Darkseid one time, which I will say I was thankful for Steppenwolf even said that, because I was thinking maybe they wouldn't even mention Darkseid at all. So as long as they got one name drop, that was more than I was thinking. So one's better than none.
If I'm remembering correctly, I don't think they even get into the mother boxes themselves that much, right? It's just sort of like a exposition flashback, right?
Yeah, they do explain what they could do like to the Earth and all that, but not their history and what they mean to like New Genesis and Apocalypse and all that and the mythology of it. So
right, yeah.
The fourth world is such a rich corner of the DC universe, and I'm very excited that there is an entire live-action film dedicated to it now in development. I think that this movie could set up Justice League 3 if that ever comes to fruition. If it gets made, which I really hope it still does, Justice League 2 will likely focus on the Justice League fighting the Injustice League, and then I'm guessing that in a potential Justice League 3, Darkseid will come to Earth to finish the job that Steppenwolf started. The New Gods film could lay the groundwork for that. I'm not saying that WB should place mandates on DuVernay to set up story threads for that. They absolutely shouldn't. They should just let her make the movie she wants to make. But just by virtue of it being a film about the New Gods, it would just naturally lead in nicely to Darkseid coming to Earth in a future Justice League movie. I will actually say that there's one thing that has me excited specifically for DuVernay's attachment, which is that she has said that Big Barda is her favorite superhero. That suggests to me that she has a real passion for the characters in that part of the DC universe, which I hope shines through in her film. Yeah, I think before she was even attached to this, like maybe a few months ago, I think she just got a question, who's your favorite superhero, and on Twitter, and she responded saying Big Barda. So it's definitely going to be a passion project for her, which is great. As Jordan said, that always makes for, at least you hope for better movie making when you're passionate about the characters and the world you're dealing with. And I also think, your possible outcome for Justice League 3 sounds great, Jordan. I would agree with that, but I barely even think Justice League 2 is going to happen, so I got to worry about that first. I still want to see that as well with the Injustice League or the Secret Society or whatever they're going to call themselves.
Well, what's the word on Justice League 2?
Nothing. That's the problem. Really? But I agree that the New Gods film, it shouldn't be, they shouldn't make any mandates to do any connections at all, but don't leave it out of the realm of possibility that it could set something up. Like, you don't have to specifically do any lead-ups, but don't paint yourselves in a corner where it can't be connected to the overall universe. That's all I'm hoping for with it. But we'll see what happens. Warner Brothers' track record with this type of stuff isn't good, so let's just get the New Gods film made first before we start worrying about connections and all that, where it ties in. But Jordan continues saying, I'm excited about the new Justice League roster in the comics far more than I am about Scott Snyder joining the book. It's really cool that it is largely comprised of the founding members from the Justice League animated series, which I think featured an excellent Justice League roster. I'm glad that Simon Baz and Jessica Cruz are gone. Well, I didn't have any issue with Simon other than I simply didn't find him particularly interesting, but I am infuriated with Jessica right now. I think I remember you saying you dropped Justice League, Tim, so I'll fill you in. Yes, I did. So I am totally out of the loop of what's going on in Justice League right now. But Jordan explains, saying, back in issue 38, with no explanation and no prior romantic buildup, Jessica just went and kissed Bruce on the watchtower.
Uh-oh.
It was absurd. Absurd, all in caps.
Uh-oh.
It's one thing for another writer on another book to not really acknowledge the fact that Bruce is engaged in the Batman solo title, if I could talk. But it's another thing entirely to spit right in the face of it like Christopher Priest did. All we gotten since then is Jessica mentioning to Simon that she kissed Bruce in order to get Simon to stop thinking about something else that was bugging him. There hasn't been any other explanation of what's going on. I mean, I'm not sure I want more explanation because I kind of want to pretend that kiss never happened. But even so, it bugs me that it came out of nowhere and that it's been handled so nonchalantly. Anyway, with that said, I am very excited to have Jon Stewart joining the team instead. I'm also eager for Martian Manhunter to finally be on the league again. I've missed him. As for Snyder being the writer, as I've said before, he is hit or miss for me. And his work specifically with the Justice League and Dark Knight's Metal has been a miss, as I'll get to later. So I probably wouldn't be that excited about him coming on the book if I weren't so annoyed with Priest's run right now. But given that I am so annoyed with Priest's run, I'm actually looking forward to Snyder taking over. Yeah, you had a rough couple of months, Jordan, with, first the tease of the Wonder Woman Batman kiss. You dodged a bullet with that one since that never happened. But then this happens with Jessica Cruz's Green Lantern. But since I didn't read it, I'm sure it wasn't Batman's choice. I'm sure it was a surprise on him, unless I'm mistaken, because then that would really be, I'm sure, a cause of more an issue for you. But if Bruce didn't, expect it or do anything about it, then I don't think you have to worry about it too much, even though I can understand how it made you annoyed.
This is the Batman soap opera.
Yeah.
Right? I'm surprised there's not business deals that went wrong and, the woman that was behind that actually kissed Batman first. And,
this is another thing I got to bring up real quick. And I hope this doesn't come to fruition. I just saw a tweet about it today. I'm like, what? This is a little bit before we started recording, that there's a Batman Deathstroke comic out right now, and it's suggesting that Deathstroke might be Damian's father rather than Bruce.
Oh,
and,
no.
Hey, this is another thing that ties back to Priest, because he's writing that book too. Because he was at a panel today. I forget what convention it is, but he was saying how, let your voices be heard if you want Deathstroke to be the real father of Damian Wayne, kind of almost like a Jason Todd live or die thing. if he thinks that the fans let DC know they want this, maybe it will happen. But man, I will be really upset if they do a retcon and they make Deathstroke the father of Damian. That would be really, really dumb in my opinion. And like you said, it'd be like the soap opera or like a Jerry Springer type show type thing. Who's the father of Damian Wayne? You got Talia sitting in a chair, Batman and Deathstroke on the one corner. It's don't do that, please. So I haven't read that book, and I kind of don't want to, if that's the main thrust of it. But hopefully that is something that will not come to pass. That would be really, really dumb. But anyway, that was my, soapbox I went on. After Jordan complained about Jessica Cruz, I'm complaining about Slade Wilson maybe being Damian's father.
And then the next step is going to be,
Oh
Gordon isn't the father of Barbara. It's actually Bruce,
Oh man.
You're gonna have to get the DNA tests out, the paternity tests.
Well, so pretty much start a new Batman title called Batman DNA, where we get all these revelations of who's actually related to
who. Or Batman paternity test.
Yeah.
Then you also
that could be the tie-in book.
Yeah, and you also have the tie-in to that, or the spin-off, which is the Batman maternity test.
Yeah.
You might as well while you're at it.
Oh man. Well, anything's possible in comics. That's the saying. So.
Oh yeah.
But speaking of better comics, Jordan continues saying, "I love Batman number 43. Spoilers, I thought it was amazing how Bruce was able to take something he learned from his relationship with Selina to defeat Ivy. Bruce knows that he needs Selina, and he realized that Ivy also needs Harley. There are a lot of people who say that Bruce can't still be Batman if he finds happiness with Selina, and I vehemently disagree, of course. This was an example of Bruce's relationship with Selina actually helping him save the day as Batman. It was great. The end of the issue is the highlight for me, though. I love Bruce and Selina back in bed where they were when this arc began, reassuring each other that they'll be okay before kissing in the final panel with the caption that says, "Next, the wedding begins." It was so sweet. Next up, we got the wedding planning issue, and I couldn't be more excited.
You know, I just had a weird thought that, and no offense to Jordan, no offense, man, but what if it wasn't actually Selina this whole time?
Uh-oh.
It was Clayface just trying to make his whole big plan thing.
Well, I don't think Jordan has to worry about that because Clayface, as I talked about in my reviews for Detective Comics, has been dead or was killed recently. So
yeah, that's what you want to think, or that's what Clayface wants you to think. That
what if
dead.
it's remember that character Jane Doe?
Yeah.
A few years back.
Well, Selina would have to be dead, right?
Well, they could make that shocking reveal.
Oh, I guess.
Like the wedding night, that could be it.
like, what if this is just like a whole big scam thing on Bruce and Batman?
Yeah.
That it's not actually Selina. It's like a shape-shifting guy or Jane Doe or Clayface. And then it's all just a big ruse.
Oh, man. I can't imagine Jordan's feelings if that would happen.
Oh, man. He would send us a novel, Tim.
Yeah.
A 30,000 word.
Oh, sorry, Jordan, if Dane caused you concern now and worry about what it might happen after the wedding.
No, I'm just saying, because rather than just go through, I mean, maybe like the people in DC were like, maybe instead of going through this whole thing where we gotta sort of break them up and, you know, every let's say 3 years from now we gotta break them up, maybe it's not Selina, you know, and then this whole thing is just a big ruse on Batman and Bruce Wayne. You know, just so they don't have to go through the whole thing where, like, you know,
they've done stuff like that before.
Yeah, so.
And then afterwards, the next series is going to be, or event, the search for the real Selina Kyle.
Yeah. Just so it doesn't become a Peter Parker, Mary Jane thing, or a Lois Lane and Clark Kent thing, you know?
Well, the Superman Lois thing I think has been good, but the Peter Parker, Mary Jane, oh man, did they do a retcon like that?
Yeah. What was that called? One More Day or something?
Yeah, One More Day.
And what happened with that?
He pretty much makes a deal with the devil, the character Mephisto in the Marvel universe. I think, if I remember right, the point of it was to make, because Spider-Man, that was after the Civil War event, and he came out and revealed his identity to everybody.
Yeah.
And that caused Aunt May to get shot, and she was pretty much going to die. Yeah. So they made a deal with that to redo all that. So he never revealed his identity. Aunt May never got shot. But the cost was that Peter and Mary Jane's marriage would end. And the part I have in trouble remembering is if they don't remember ever, like they never were married, or if they just were not married anymore. I think it's that they reversed it to where they never were married, as if it never happened. I think that's what it was.
And wasn't there like a follow-up to that, like One Last Time or something?
It was One More Day and then Brand New Day, I think.
Brand New Day, right?
But it didn't really fix anything. And they're still not married.
Yeah.
Which I think is a shame. I always liked the Peter Parker, Mary Jane relationship as husband and wife. It was just a dynamic you don't see with superheroes too much without like being married, which is why I'm excited to see how it works for Batman and Catwoman and see how long that lasts, which is why I'm hoping it lasts, you know, a good portion, not just a quick little thing that they retcon.
Yeah, I kind of remember. I mean, I don't remember much, Tim, but I do remember Spider-Man fans being upset over that.
Yeah, they're still upset over it.
Really? Oh, so it's today that story has.
Yeah, it's sticking. Marvel keeps saying they're not going to change it, but
wow.
And I guess the ways they try to make fans feel better about it, they've created like other continuity or Elseworld type stories or comic series where Peter is married to Mary Jane still. They have a child. Because that was the other big point of that story in One More Day, it was revealed that once their marriage never happened or got erased, the child that they were going to have never came to be as well. So that was like a big thing that, caused people to be upset and all that. And so they're trying to make it work, but at the same time, if it's not in the main continuity, it's not the same.
Yeah.
It just really isn't.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, so Spider-Man is coming on issue 800. So he's going to be getting, a new status quo pretty soon, I think, too. So we'll see where that goes.
Maybe they'll be married and then they'll just forget about this whole One More Day.
Yeah. I'm surprised it's lasted this long. I mean, quickly comic book status quos change for characters. So I think it'll come back eventually. This might be Spider-Man issue 1000, maybe. Or something.
So you got to wait 20 years.
Probably. But Jordan continues with On to Dark Knight's Metal number 6, spoilers. I really wanted to like this issue. I truly did. I wanted to like it to justify me reading the series. However, this issue might have been the worst one yet, in my opinion. I find myself thinking throughout almost the whole issue, boy, am I glad this will be over in just a few more pages. This whole series has been incoherent and confusing and boring, but this issue was the epitome of that. I mean, there's no explanation for anything. There are these weird Joker dragons, maybe a reference to Batman's fear of snake clowns in the Lego Batman movie. Kind of doubt that, but at least he made some type of connection. They aren't explained at all. Batman throws these batarangs to his fellow Justice Leaguers that automatically give them suits of armor. Lady Blackhawk is able to save Carter Hall, and I'm still not sure what she did to do it. The Joker just randomly appears in the Batcave and battles the Batman who laughs. I'm not a fan of Batman teaming up with the Joker under any circumstance. Barbados is captured in a way that made no sense. Oh, and there's a point where Batman yells, "Yeehaw! Are you kidding me?" I was rolling my eyes through all this. Okay, now that I'm done complaining, I never want to think about this series again. Sorry to be so negative. I feel kind of bad about it too, because I just watched an interview with Snyder about where he talked about how it was one of his favorite things he'd ever written, and essentially talked about how it was like his magnum opus, and he seemed to be so enthusiastic about it. But it just did not work for me at all. As far as I'm concerned, The Black Mirror is Snyder's magnum opus. Now that's a masterpiece. Yeah, so I read this issue too, and I'm pretty much in agreement with you here, Jordan. This whole series in general was a letdown. Like you said, a lot of things just was so convoluted, the story. Certain things was hard to make sense of it all, especially the villain Barbados. He was never appeared to be that big of a threat, even though they implied that he was. I think the biggest problem with Metal is that there were just way too many tie-ins you had to get the full grasp of the story, and I just wasn't going to do that with this story. I mean, I'm a big believer, probably more so now than ever, how when you have an event series, you really should just have all the main points you want in the actual series instead of getting all these tie-ins to get payoffs later in the main series that, to be invested in certain characters like Barbados or the Batman Who Laughs. I just wasn't with any of those characters because I didn't get the tie-ins, and I don't think that should be the case. So, yeah, it was disappointing overall. I will say the one thing I did like about it is the new status quo it put on the DC universe. I thought it was really cool to have the source wall be torn down, and it's just, going to expose the side of the DC galaxy and universe that we'd never seen before with new beings and all that. So I think that's going to be really cool, and that sets up probably what the new Justice League stories are going to be. So I am excited about that. I think that was, a good payoff or a good event to happen in a big series like this. But to get there with all this stuff going on with the, dark multiverse and all these characters, it just didn't click for me like it did you. So I'm glad it's over as well. And let's just get to Justice League and hopefully more simple stories with that. And Jordan continues saying, I'll keep the spoiler free since I know you wait for a physical, but I have now watched Suicide Squad Hell to Pay, and I loved it. It's a hard R, non-stop thrilling road trip adventure with Task Force X, and it's such a blast. It's hilarious, but it also has some great action sequences and some very emotional moments. It's actually similar to Batman and Harley Quinn in some ways, which for me is a positive thing, although I know many fans don't share my love for that film. But with more action and taken a bit more seriously. There are a lot of amazing character moments, and there's really a cool twist in the movie that made my jaw drop, but that's all I'll say. It's such a fun ride. Hope you enjoy. Yeah, I've heard that too about there being a pretty cool surprise or twist in the movie. And I just haven't been too excited about this one for certain reasons. I said about it before when it was first announced about being another Suicide Squad origin story and all that. But I'm definitely going to check it out. At the very least, I'll rent it. And plus, it's supposed to be Alan Burnett's final bit of work he's going to do in DC animation as the writer. So, and of course, Alan Burnett was a big part of the Batman the Animated Series. And I would like to see his final movie that he's written, even though it's with the Suicide Squad. So I'll probably check it out, probably mainly for that reason alone. But glad to hear you enjoyed it, Jordan. I actually heard it's been pretty good. So maybe with my lowered expectations for it and, the good buzz I'm hearing, I'll be surprised by it when I do see it. So I'll let you know once I do. And I'll keep this spoiler free as well, but I just wanted to say I finished the final episode of Batman the Enemy Within, and it was amazing. Can't wait to hear your guys' thoughts on it when you finish the game. Yeah, glad Jordan brought that up, Dane, because I just finally got all caught up with it as well, and I just finished it. And you definitely got to catch up on it soon, Dane. It was really good.
Really?
Yeah.
I saw the Joker becomes like your friend or something.
It's all up to you, and that's the thing. I don't want to say too much, but I think I said this in our first episode when we reviewed that one for season 2, how I tried really hard in my decision to have Joker be my friend and keep him away from crime. But I'll wait to tell you what my status was and how that all worked out once you play it. But it's definitely, I don't know if it's as good as the first one. Probably not, but it still had some great moments and a lot more hard choices to be made as well. So definitely a good follow-up to it.
Oh, okay.
And to wrap up, Jordan has a couple of questions. He goes, who are your top favorite comic book writers? For me, it's number 5, Paul Dini. Number 4, Bill Matheny. Number 3, Brian Q. Miller. Number 2, Jeff Loeb. Number 1, Tom King. Yeah, this one for me, it was hard. I'm actually going to do my top 5 that are currently working right now, because I would have to think really hard for all time, just with all the legends that have been involved with comic books. I mean, even like I would have to say Bill Finger for the stuff he created for Batman, and then you got other comic book legends, Denny O'Neil, Len Wein, and some of the Marvel writers, Chris Claremont. So I'd have to think about it a lot to really have a definitive top 5. But the top 5 current writers right now, I'm going to go number 5, Tom Waltz, who's the writer on the TMNT comics by IDW, which have been phenomenal, as I've raved about again and again. So no need to say too much there, except that Tom Waltz has done an amazing job with reinventing the Turtles in comics. Number 4, I'm going to go Kyle Higgins. I mean, he got off to a great start in DC with, Gates of Gotham and then his Nightwing run. But then he just killed it on the Batman Beyond 2.0 comics that were just amazing. And then he's continuing that with the current Power Ranger comics. So Kyle Higgins really has yet to disappoint me with some of the stuff that I've been reading of his. He's been awesome. Number 3, I'm still going to have Scott Snyder there. The Dark Knight's Metal notwithstanding. I mean, the stuff he's done over the course of Batman, starting from Detective, New 52, and even with the Rebirth stuff, it hasn't been all great. Like, there was a period where everything he wrote was just great, but he's had some, dips a little bit, but that's to be expected. All of his stuff can't be great, but still enough to be number 3. Number 2, Paul Dini. I mean, how can I not have Paul Dini on there? This is just animated series stuff aside, he's written some great comics as well. Heart of Hush being a really great one that stands out. So got to have Paul Dini on there. And then number 1, Jeff Johns. He's just written so much of my favorite stories. I mean, Green Lantern alone would have him on my list, but then like stuff he's done on the Flashpoint was amazing. When the New 52, he did some great Aquaman stuff when that came out. His Justice League run, I really loved in the New 52, and now it's continuing with Doomsday Clock. So Jeff Johns, he just might be my favorite comic writer of all time, even if I were to do a list like that. So that would be my top 5. What would be yours, Dade?
I'm gonna give 3.
Okay.
Paul Dini because of Dark Knights. Sorry.
Yeah.
2, Hayden Blackman, and then 1,
Good choice.
J.H. Williams.
Nope. Can't say I'm surprised by those picks, but at the same time, they're great picks. I mean, Hayden Blackman gets extra points too for his Star Wars comics that he did years ago. So
he doesn't get a lot of credit for what he did for Star Wars.
No, yeah, especially now since none of that stuff's canon anymore. But yeah. I loved his Jango Fett open season story arc. That was really, really great.
Yeah.
It's right now still my definitive origin story for the character until we get another one, because that's all there is right now. So I'm going to take that. And Jordan's second question, similar to the first, but is with comic book artists. What are our top 5 favorite comic book artists? And for Jordan, it's number 5, Christopher Jones. Number 4, Lee Bermejo. Number 3, Gilliam March. Number 2, Joel Jones. And number 1, Jim Lee. And for me, this is another hard one too, but I was able to come up with 5 current comic book artists too. Number 5, I'm going to go with David Peterson. And this is one who did that series Mouse Guard, but I love that art style. But then he did some covers and some artwork for the TMNT comics that Tom Waltz written back when they first started, and I just loved his art style. I think it's very fantasy based, especially with the look of Mouse Guard, but it fits the Turtles perfectly as well. I mean, there's a cover of a Master Splinter issue where he's just in the sewer surrounded by candles making a pot of tea. There's just something visually about that piece of art that I just love. So I'm going to put him as number 5. Number 4, I'm going to go with Ivan Reis because I just loved his work with Jeff Johns on Green Lantern. He drew some of my favorite Green Lantern covers and just panels and splash pages in some of his runs, like in Blackest Night. A lot of great stuff from there, especially being a big fan of those Green Lantern comics. And Ivan Reis, I thought, was the perfect compliment to Jeff Johns' storytelling with his art. And then number 3, this one's a more recent for me, who I've gotten familiar with. I'm probably going to get his name wrong, but Marco Cicchetto. He's been doing some work on the Star Wars comics recently, and it's just been phenomenal. Stuff on Shattered Empire, which is one of the first comics that took place after Return of the Jedi. Some great art there. And then his work on the Captain Phasma comic, that blew me away. I mean, you know how much I love Phasma and her armor, and he just brought it to life in such a beautiful way in the comics. And it just really made me come to recognize his work and just to become a fan of his. So he'd be my number 3 choice. The number 2, I got to go, my top 2 are going to be, probably not surprises and iconic choices, but Alex Ross as number 2 and then number 1 as Jim Lee, like you, Jordan. Those guys are just some of my favorites, especially when you talk about DC. Definitely different styles, but both great for what they do. But I just put Jim Lee at the top because I do prefer that more, comic book art style than Alex Ross's realistic, as amazing as it is. I just prefer, Jim Lee's style just a little bit more. So those would be my top 5.
For me, definitely Guillaume March. 4, I would go. You see, I have 2 that are kind of equal. I just don't know where to put them. Okay, so for these next 2, in no particular order, Fabok and Finch. 3.
I'd probably put Finch over Fabok just a little bit.
Yeah. I'll say that then. 2. We should have for my number 2, Tim.
See, I don't know if he's going to be your number 1.
You know what? Okay, here's what's going to happen. All right, my final 2 are in no particular order because I like them both. J.H. Williams and Jock.
That's who. I knew Jock had to be in there in one of them.
Yeah, J.H. Williams and Jock.
Yeah.
Probably J.H. Williams over Jock, I'd say. Just because J.H. Williams has like that sort of like, I don't know how to say it. He has more artistry too.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, to his
kind of
work,
hard to describe, but I know what you mean.
Where Jock is more, he looks more like a graffiti artist, and I don't mean that in a bad way. So.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Good picks to me. So. Yeah. That's it for Jordan's email. As always, thank you, Jordan, for sharing your thoughts and for a couple of good questions that had to make us think to really pinpoint our favorite writers and artists. So thanks, as always, for chiming in.
All right, so now we can move on to our conversation. I mean, not our conversation. Our comic book reviews. Yeah, we just did it. Our comic book reviews, and like we said at the beginning of every single comic book review, except for the last one, because I don't think we did. There's going to be a lot of spoilers in this, so if you haven't read your books yet, you might want to do that first and then come back to this. But for this episode, we're going to be reviewing Batman number 44, Detective Comics number 977, and Doomsday Clock number 4. And a rating scale for this episode is going to be What was it, Tim?
I know. I'm trying to think of it again, too. Was it like more misery for the Oakland A's this season or something to that effect?
More stadium misery for the Oakland A's.
In 2018.
In 2018.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
All right. Batman number 44. This issue is pretty much where we go wedding dress shopping, but in Catwoman style. I really like this issue, though, because it starts off with, Catwoman waking up in the middle of the night while Bruce is still sleeping. She sneaks out in her costume. But then we immediately get a flashback to the moment where her and Batman had their first encounter. And, I just love how they're just capturing that first look of her in that green dress and her long dark hair. Just from that very first comic in Batman number 1. I'm just glad they're capturing that feel and they're putting that in the canon. That's still how her and Bruce first met. And Tom King has hinted at that from the very beginning of his run, but I just love how it's continuing. Every time they call back to it, I just love it. Just calling back to the Batman number 1. It's just a great little nod to do and put in the main story. So the issue kind of goes back and forth between the present of Catwoman sneaking in and pretty much breaking into this wedding dress shop, because when she goes into the sewer, she plants some bombs underneath and makes her way into the shop from underground to break in there. But over the course of the issue, as she's trying on wedding dresses, we get flashbacks to different encounters that her and Batman had. And I just really like that about this issue, because it really showed, where at different points of the relationship they were at throughout the course of the years they first met each other. I mean, there's one where, and also how the different looks that Batman and both Catwoman have had throughout the years, which is really great. And again, more great artwork by, again, you're probably going to have to correct me on pronouncing the name, Dane, but Miguel Yannin, isn't Michael Yannin? I always get one of the parts of the name wrong, but Miguel Yannin and Jolie Jones, I mean, they're just killing it on these.
Joel Jones, you mean?
What did I say?
Jolie.
Okay, Joel. One of these reviews, I'm going to get their artist name right. I mean, regardless of how much I butcher their names, their art is just so fantastic. And it continues here throughout, the present stuff with Catwoman trying on the dresses and then the flashbacks. Again, highlighting the different costumes that her and Batman both wore. The purple costume with the green cape, her just green costume with the green mask. So all that stuff being shown in this issue again, in the history of Batman and Catwoman's relationship. And I just like how it made a nice parallel and tie into what Catwoman's doing as she's trying on the different wedding dresses and how none of it is satisfying her. She just can't seem to find the right one. And so, she's getting frustrated. It keeps tracks of the time, too. I believe she left at 2:30 a.m. in the morning, and she's been trying on different wedding dresses until about 6:30, until she finds the perfect one, which is the one they revealed not too long ago, where, the top part of the dress is all black and then the bottom of it is white. Definitely unique, but fitting for Catwoman, and she just thinks it's perfect. And so at the end of the issue, we get a moment where, kind of in the present time, but not right in the present, but I think to a point where Batman and Selina were engaged, where they just have this conversation where Batman he tells Selina, we keep changing. And Selina goes, outfits? Yeah, I know. He goes, no, not that. Just us over the years, we're never the same. And it's not just the outfits. And he tells Selina, what if we can't change? What if this doesn't work? Meaning if they get married, what if they just change and how they feel about each other again? Because that's what's great about the flashback portion of this issue. We get moments where Catwoman shows concern for Batman as she saves his life from some falling debris. There's moments where she's fighting Batman and can't stand him, and how telling Batman that he ruined her life. So just showing the ups and downs of the relationship that they had, and Batman is wondering if that's going to happen again once they're married. But Catwoman doesn't seem to think so. She gives him that, it's not like that. It's just because we're always looking. But if we're always looking, if we're not always looking, we're not going to change. And Batman's, well, if that's true, then what are we looking for? And she kind of ties it into the different costumes they were going through and encountered each other in too. She goes, yes, an outfit or a costume, it's just something that just fits perfectly, meaning they're just waiting to find the right situation for them to be totally happy together, which hopefully is going to be them getting married. And I think that's what that wedding dress symbolized for Selina when she found it, that it's just being perfect for her. And then her and Batman have found the perfect situation for themselves at this moment. So there's a lot of great stuff here, highlighting the relationship they had over the years and kind of giving a visual representation of what it all means throughout their costumes and where they are now in the relationship of getting engaged and Catwoman getting her wedding dress. So a really cool issue. I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 new see, I already forgot. New miseries for Oakland and their stadium in 2018. Was that it?
Sounds good enough.
Okay. So, yeah, really cool issue. And I did get the cover with Bruce looking at the mirror in his Bat costume. The one with Selena in her wedding dress is a little more expensive as the variant cover. So I just stuck with the regular one, but still both cool covers. Now, Detective Comics number 977. This one starts off, or this is continuing the Batman Eternal arc. But it starts off with giving us a look into the future and what Tim was going to plan on doing by going to the Ivy University and really, doing what he planned to do when he told Stephanie Brown about going to school and all that. But it gets pretty much a rude awakening when there's a news report about the president ordering, an attack against Batman and to take him in over at Wayne Manor. And other college students tell Tim to look at the news, and he runs to the TV and sees what's going on as he on the TV sees these colony ships going over Wayne Manor, and he just goes into his room and rips up his Red Robin, not rips up, but takes out his Red Robin costume and puts it on to get over there. And this next few pages is how it starts. It reminded me of the Over the Edge episode of Gordon and the police just getting into Wayne Manor and into the Batcave, because we see the colony soldiers in their masks, which are a little, not really similar, but it invoked the same thing as those SWAT officers in Over the Edge that broke into Wayne Manor and the Batcave and infiltrate in the secret entrance to the clock, and Batman's fighting them in the Batcave until he gets shot in the back by Kate Kane, not as Batwoman, but in a similar costume as she's working with the Colony now with her father. And, he tells Batman to surrender, and Bruce just tells her he knows that's not going to happen. And then we see her pull the trigger and shoot him right in the head. And Tim enters there too late, just telling Kate, "What have you done?" And she says the same thing she said about Clayface. What I had to do, exactly what I had to do. And then we, get back to the present, and it's revealed that Ulysses, if I remember his name, that character I really don't like. Yes, it's Ulysses. He was showing Tim this footage from the future Tim's archives from his Batsuit that he was able to get, and just pretty much showing Tim what's going to happen, but he knows a way to prevent that bad future from happening, and for Tim not to be like his future self, which Tim is just, as we know in previous issue, was so afraid from becoming that. So he offers Tim a choice, letting him know about Brother Eye and giving him the situation he needs to use Brother Eye to have a lasting peace and make sure what the Colony and Kate does never happens to Bruce. And I like how James Tynion here even threw a Back to the Future reference, because Ulysses tells Tim, this is a Biff Sports Almanac situation we got, so what do you say? But Tim just tells him he has to think it over. And then we get a brief moment with Luke Fox and his sister, telling him about joining the Colony with Kate Kane. There's 2 soldiers here that go up to their base to go back on their shift and enter into their soldier suits. But as they get into their suits, a problem happens where the Brother Eye infiltrates their suits and takes them out of commission as far as, operating it. So now Brother Eye has controls of these Colony outfits. And then another cool moment here was when Tim comes to Bruce as Bruce is taking out, I guess this criminal hideout. He's going to take out some criminals here. And Tim comes in and tells Bruce that, first Bruce tells him, Tim right away, I'm not going to consider rebuilding the Belfry. And Tim's all, I know. I just have to come to tell you that I saw something that really shook me up, and I need to be by your side tonight. I need to ask for your help. So I'm asking you for help. And Batman just casually just says, he doesn't say, okay, he just goes, well, you can start by taking the smaller guy on the right, and I'll head towards the guy on the left with the semi-automatic. And Tim's all like, seriously? That's your response? Then Bruce just says, I'm glad you came, Tim. Or he says, I'm glad you came to me. And Tim's all, me too. So let's do this. But before they're able to go into that criminal hideout, those 2 colony soldiers that were hacked by Brother Eye just storm in there and just start shooting everyone up with their automatic rifles, like really big time guns. And then we get the panel of Ulysses talking, just saying, you just have to see what I have to offer you, Tim. I promise this is all for you. So pretty much saying that Tim's not going to go with Ulysses' offer once he finds out he's behind Brother Eye hacking these colony suits. So again, it's probably going to establish a more conflict between the colony, Batman, and Tim. So more good character stuff here. I like that future possibility and the outcome that we've heard about, but now seeing how it finally happened was pretty cool. Just a great moment with Bruce and Tim here as well. So I'm going to give this one 4 out of 5 new misery conditions in the Oakland Coliseum for 2018. And then finally, we got a Doomsday Clock issue after it's not like forever since issue 3. And this one kind of takes a break from the main storyline, and we get pretty much the origin story of the new Rorschach, Reggie Long. And it kind of confirms of, how he became Rorschach, what happened to him, and his background. And it is revealed that he is the son of Malcolm Long, the doctor who was Rorschach or Walter Kovac's psychiatrist when he was in prison. And the issue starts off with him being in Arkham because, that's where Batman left him at the end of issue 3. And I like how it made his origin story definitely different from Walter Kovac's Rorschach. I bought into it, but at the same time, I don't know, it's kind of weird and hard for me to explain. I liked the story. It was a good origin that I was invested in for Reggie, but it just wasn't quite as special as I was hoping it would be, as giving, the importance of Rorschach's mantle and him taking that up. It just didn't quite have that big, like I said, it's hard to explain, that big oomph to it that, this is like a great follow-up origin story to Rorschach's legacy here. It just wasn't as great, I guess, I was hoping it would be for someone who's taken on, that iconic mantle. But it was definitely still good, and I enjoyed it. Just, wasn't as great as I was hoping it would be. But it begins, with as Reggie as a little kid. He said something I didn't like here, as his dad was telling him, "You don't want to move here. You're a Yankees fan, right, Reggie?" And he goes, "I don't even like baseball." That made me sad as a Yankees and baseball fan. But we just get a little bit of his personality, how he's someone who was picked on and bullied, but he would never fight back. That just, wasn't his style. And as how his family, his mother was really concerned about the city where they're living in with Dr. Manhattan, what he can do, and how she wants to move. But his father, really waiting for that big break and wants to make a name for himself as an author. And that break doesn't come until he gets in those sessions with Walter Kovac, with Rorschach. But, that's where everything kind of took a turn for the worst. And this issue kind of goes back and forth from the past with Reggie as a kid, and then also him in Arkham. There's a few panels here that were cool as we see him going back to his Arkham cell, kind of being dragged and getting beat up as he passes Mr. Freeze's chamber, as we see him holding the ballerina that he had in Heart of Ice. So again, little nods like that is still cool when we're getting a Watchmen story still set in the main DC universe. There's still little stuff like that still gets me excited as a fan of both. So I just love seeing that. Anytime there's a moment like that in the issue, it's just really fun to see. And so we get the reveal of what happened once Reggie, after Ozymandias put his plan to fruition, caused that massive explosion and that alien monster. At the end of Watchmen, we saw it from Reggie's perspective while he was in the car, and we saw that big bright light flash in front of him. And then we find out that as it killed, tons of people, it, those that left alive, it messed with their minds and made them insane. So I pretty much had to drive Reggie into a mental institution for most of his adult life after that event. And that's where we get, panels going from the current time in Arkham and then back to his first time being into a mental institution here. And he gets a visit from a doctor in the current timeline in Arkham. And this doctor is trying to ask him questions about Batman. He's asking him, like, what do you know about Batman? Why did Batman leave you here? Is there anything you can tell me about the Batman? So this doctor trying to get questions, and we'll get back to him later, which was a pretty cool surprise I didn't see coming. But we just get Reggie's monologue just saying he can't be locked up again, how that image of him being trapped in his car and everything that happened, it just, brings back those bad memories and what drove him insane in the first place. So we get more of his history of him in his mental institution when he first got infected. There's this moment pretty much that changed the course of his life here, where he was going to go on the top of the roof pretty much to kill himself because he just couldn't take what he was seeing, like the effects of the mental illness just caused him to see people to see things that aren't there and just driving him crazy, and he just couldn't take it anymore. So he's going to jump. But that's where he runs into an old man about to jump too, but he goes, actually, I'm not going to jump. I'm going to fly. Then he reveals, he created these wings as a moth, and he's going to fly out naked. And it is Mothman from the Minutemen, who we know was taken into a mental institution in the original Watchmen story. But he does come back. He gets taken in by some orderlies again. But he forms a relationship with Reggie here, and he taught him how to cope with his mental illness by telling him, you just got to see what you want to see. Let that be your focus. And he even trains him to fight too. Of course, being part of the Minutemen, he wants to train Reggie because he knows, wants to give Reggie kind of a purpose to help him out during this tough time. And he sneaks out a few more times over the course of the story. He brings back contraband as his time out away from the mental institution. And once he does that, he brings back Reggie, his dad's file on Rorschach, and Reggie just starts looking at that and becoming, just more engrossed to his dad's report about Walter Kovac and everything he thought he was able to take from those sessions they had. And then over the course of the issue, we find out or learn how Reggie saw and Mothman about how Adrian Veidt got revealed to be the person behind, the attack on the city with the monster and, his whole facade and all that stuff. And that just gives Reggie, more focus on what he wants to do. He has someone to blame for all the pain that caused him, taking away his parents, messing with his mind, being in this mental institution. And then it comes to find out that anyone who was affected by Adrian Veidt's plan, those that didn't kill and mess with their minds, the government wants to take those people in to see if they can provide any more information on Adrian's whereabouts. And so they were going to transfer Reggie to a new institution through the government. But before that happened, Mothman they were able to plan an escape and to get out of the mental institution. But that wasn't Mothman's path. He was going to go back because they caused a fire in the institution, which caused them the distraction they need to escape. But Mothman kind of, living up to his name, a moth towards the flame, he just goes back into that burning building. And he wrote Reggie a letter explaining, this was something he had to do, and it wasn't his purpose to be with Reggie at this point. This is, something Reggie has to do. But Mothman did all he could with training him, providing him with his father's notes. But he did one more thing. He left him Rorschach's mask that he had. And that's where Reggie got the mask. And he's setting off to the Arctic to find Adrian to exact his revenge on what he did. So he's in Rorschach's mask, but he's wearing, a warm sweater, not quite the classic Rorschach costume. But he finds Adrian, and he's there to kill him. But once he's about to, Adrian explains the situation about, he has a tumor now, and how he just, as he's telling Reggie to do it, he just goes, go ahead and do it. I am the monster. And he realizes, and he tells him, what have I done? I saw the light too late. I'm sorry. And that throws Reggie off guard, in the mental state he's in. That's not what he wanted to hear, but he puts Adrian down and lets him live. And that's where we get, as we know in the first issue, he was working with Adrian from the beginning. So we got how they first met. Adrian tells him about, his plan to get Dr. Manhattan back and, sets up to where they both teamed up to where issue 1 began. But another big portion of the story is where in the present time, as Reggie's still locked up in Arkham, he gets a visit, or we see spread out through the course of the issue, the lady Jane Doe looking at Reggie through her cell. And we get the reveal that it's actually Saturn Girl from, the Legion of Superheroes, who Jeff Johns has been planting here and there and since Rebirth. We saw her there. Then she made a few appearances in some of the Batman books. I believe it was the I Am Suicide Squad story where she showed up in Arkham. But now it looks like we're finally going to get more information about her as to why she's here. And it looks almost kind of like she was here in this time waiting in Arkham for Reggie to be there. That was her purpose, was to find him. And she opens his cell, and it looks like they're going to escape together as well. But that's not who Reggie sees. As she opens the door, she just says, or he asks, who are you? And she goes to friend. And when she says that, he's seeing Mothman in costume. I'm not going back to that point of seeing what you want to see. So it looks like they're going to set up for a team up and hopefully get more information to Saturn Girl's role in the story in Doomsday Clock, which is exciting to finally get those pieces laid out in Rebirth and expanded on here, which is always good. And then the last part of the issue, which was a reveal, probably I should have seen coming, but I didn't. That doctor who was there, there to be Reggie's psychiatrist and ask him questions, it was actually Bruce Wayne from the get-go. He was just wearing a mask. As we see him in the Batcave, we see that mask kind of on his stand, and Alfred's telling him, asking him what happened and how he found out anything. And it just makes sense that that's something Batman would do. I knew he couldn't just leave the new Rorschach Reggie in that Arkham cell and just leave him be, not, believing his story. I think Bruce does believe it, but he just doesn't trust this guy yet and everything that's going on. So he's going to try to get his answers in a different way and see if he responds to, a doctor, or Bruce pretending to be a doctor here. So I like that Bruce didn't just abandon Reggie here. He has his own plan and what he wants to do about this and get more information. So I thought that was a pretty cool surprise. So yeah, Doomsday Clock number 4, like I said, mainly an origin story for the new Rorschach. It was good, but not quite as special as I was hoping it would be, being someone to call himself a new Rorschach. But I was still invested in it. It was still a solid story. But probably out of all 4 issues, probably, I don't want to say weakest because it's definitely not weak, but my least favorite out of the 4. I'll say that. So I'll give this one 3.5 out of 5 misery and woes for the Oakland A's in the Coliseum in 2018.
All right, so I guess that's it.
That's it. Now, I just
right.
got to wait another 2 months for Doomsday Clock number 5, which I hate that schedule.
But yeah, you can go over to the BatmanUniverse.net, Facebook.com/BatmanUniverse, Twitter handles at BatmanUniverse, Tim's Twitter handles at TimG311, my Twitter handles at DaneSaysBanana, our show's Twitter handles at Bat-Fans Podcast, and you can email the show at batfanswithoutpants@gmail.com. So with that, Tim, like we say at the end of every single episode,
we love each and every one of you with all of our bad hearts.
All of our bad hearts. So, yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
See you next time, everybody.